first met at LSU, Joe was a senior, and I was coming in as a freshman there. So I played one season with him at LSU. Joe was an outstanding player, and he actually was all Southeastern Conference for 3 years. In his senior year, which the year that I played with him, he was honorable mention All-American. Being an athlete, you learn to, one, be a team player, to sacrifice there, to work hard, dedicate yourself, be committed to them, being unselfish there. It helps you in developing leadership.
I first met Joe when he was with Converse Rubber Company. I'd heard about him, but had never met him. I met him at a coaching clinic, I believe in Las Vegas. And immediately, as quick as I can snap my finger, I thought, man, this guy is Mr. Effervescence. He was a dynamite guy, had all kinds of spirit. He probably also at that time was the most powerful man in basketball. At the NCAA Final Four, the Converse room, every coach who was looking for a job came by that place because Joe was really up on what was going on in basketball. And then he really had a lot to do with the development of the SEC. At the time it was football, football, football. Basketball wasn't much, but he did an awful lot of color, and he would constantly promote the Southeastern Conference. So he was a dynamic figure. And of course, being a great player here, I don't think most people know how good he was, but when you talk to opposing players who played against him, tell me about Joe Dean. Man alive. That guy'd dive on the floor for a loose ball. He'd run through a brick wall. He was unselfish. He had a big heart, and he was on our Olympic team. I did not know that. Plus, he was a #1 picked in the first round of the NBA draft, so he's quite a multi-talented guy. You know, we talk about skill. Hustle is also a talent. Joe Dean was a hustling son of a gun. His attitude, the fact he graduated, the fact that he moved up in the corporate world, as I said, with Converse Rubber Company. He was the vice president. He was the first one to really, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, you start getting the guys, he got into the shoe contract business.
He served a little over 12 years as the athletic director. And he was, you could say, the envy of so many of the athletic departments, you know, around the country. They were self-sustaining, the athletic department. During those 12 years, they were in the black every year. And there were some years when the football program, which is the principal revenue producer, did not have real successful seasons, but he was still able to, by budgeting and being a good administrator, you know, of the funds, to put it in the black. Over his 12 years, he gave back $7 million to the academic side of the university, which that speaks volumes.
He gave me a pretty good piece of advice. We were sitting at breakfast with Bob Boyd at the time, who was Southern Cal's basketball coach, and he said, I've heard a lot about you. He said, at Utah State, I heard you're a great recruiter, da-da-da. He said, you know what you have to do? He said, you have to get out. He said, in order to percolate, I remember him saying this, you have to circulate. You're up in the mountains. He said, you got to try to get to a bigger job. Well, lo and behold, about 2 years after that, they were looking for a head basketball coach at LSU. And probably had it not been for Joe Dean, I seriously doubt I'd have ever maybe been a Division I coach. You can't believe the numbers of coaches, I'm talking into the hundreds, that would call him because of his connections with ADs and presidents. Now, he did this free of charge to help these coaches. So he was probably the most diversified guy in basketball.
His wife, Doris Hall, who was a lovely person, great wife, mother, grandmother there, she had to do a lot of the discipline raising of the boys because Joe was gone a lot, and she did a fantastic job.
Everybody in the country mimicked Joe Dean because they doing the color in the game. He would always, when there would be a clean shot and the net would snap down almost back up through the rim, that was string music, everybody, and everybody copied Joe Dean. He had that kind of gravel voice, string music. And his son today, Joe Dean Jr., does a much better impression than I do.
String music. You hear the snap, but it's more like swish.